So this has probably got to be the most unique soundbar that I've ever checked out so far. It's called the Everest 5.1 by a brand called Majority Audio, and it has removable speakers on each side of the soundbar. These speakers act as rear speakers and turn the Everest into a 5.1 system that are wireless and battery powered. It can either be a 5.1 system with a couple of rear speakers or act as a 2.1 soundbar. But is it any good? Let's find out. So the soundbar itself is relatively long. It comes in at 90 by 9.83 by 6.56 centimeters, and if you're going to want to attach the speakers to either end of the main bar, you've got to account for an extra 16.8 centimeters, though the only advantage really of doing this is to charge the speakers, which both come with a decent amount of battery life. Though in the box, you do get an additional power cables if you've got the plugs to accommodate. I do love, however, that the fact that if you're not watching a movie, just twist them back into each end of the main soundbar, and once you feel like turning your living room back into a makeshift cinema, pull the speakers off, stick them on their provided stands, and away you go with 5.1 sound. Now, I would have liked to have seen the base plate stands for the remote speakers built into those speakers rather than having to keep them loose around your TV unit. They're not exactly small and can be an eyesore on the environment if left out, and getting them in and out of a cupboard each time you want to use 5.1 can get a little bit tedious as well. Now, the total watt output comes in at 300 watts, so this thing can get pretty loud, and I live in a modest apartment myself, and I couldn't really push this too much due to having neighbors in close proximity. Those of you in a detached property though, have fun. So the whole thing is pretty much black, different shades of black, with a metal grille wrapped across the front, which makes it look very nice in a setup, and it feels quite substantial too, which to me feels like it's got a nice build quality. It's got some rubber buttons across the center, which feel quite spongy to the touch, and it also has an LED screen, or I think it's LCD actually, to show which output you're currently using, of which I stuck to ARC on my setup most of the time, though you can choose from Bluetooth, 3.5mm aux, and an optical input, and also a USB Type A input for people who have media like music, films and TV shows on a USB hard drive or a memory stick, something like that. But what I do think is missing here to really top this soundbar is that there is no HDMI pass-through, which is a bit of a shame. Of course, you've got multiple HDMI inputs on the back of TVs now, but having a HDMI pass-through on the soundbar itself, you could plug all your devices into that and have just one cable running to the TV itself, which would have made for a much cleaner setup essentially. Okay, so let's go into a bit more detail about these remote speakers. They are decent. They sound good when they're throwing out sound and have a single driver. They can last up to 8 hours of battery time, which I think is pretty decent. That's about 4 films-ish these days. And as soon as they turn on from pressing the button on the back of the speaker itself, they connect to the main soundbar just fine and just work, and they can be plugged in too if you wanted them as a permanent fixture around the room. However, when they're on and there is just no sound coming from them, I have noticed a bit of a hiss coming from the speakers, which depending on how close they are to you, can be a problem and a bit of a distraction. Now, they can be placed up to 20 meters away from the main soundbar, so distance here I think is key. And also a nice feature is that the volume can be controlled individually too, so you can get the perfect mix in your seating position. Oh, and also just to mention, the 5.25-inch drive subwoofer is wireless as well and can provide a decent rumble, and again, volume is controlled individually here as well. And as for sound quality for the whole thing, this Everest 5.1 soundbar system, or 5.1 system, can really pack a punch when watching movies, and loud, wild action scenes coming at you from all around the room adds a really nice wide soundstage. It supports Dolby, and places like Amazon are also name-dropping Dolby 3D audio, but you're not going to be getting things like Dolby Atmos or any of the other more intricate codecs here. It's pretty basic on that front, but a decent sound nonetheless. Dialogue sounds nice and clear from the front, while the surround speakers, depending on volume, offer a nice way to add some immersion, like vehicles approaching or bullets whizzing around your head in action scenes. Now all of this is controlled via the included remote, where at the top you can change each volume called front, surround, rear and subwoofer, as well as choosing from 3 different EQ presets called music, news and movies. You've also got individual buttons for inputs as well, so the remote control is really nice and simple to use. Now there is really a lot to like about the Majority Everest 5.1 soundbar, and its unique attempt at giving people the choice of having this as a 2.1 or even 5.1 setup is great and offers a decent amount of flexibility. It costs around £230 here in the UK, which is extremely competitive, and it is found on Amazon, link below, and it could easily be a contender if you're after a budget audio offering to increase that sound. I paired mine with a Hisense TV, and yes, it was a bit of a pain to set up, but I did get there in the end with a couple of settings from Hisense, and the soundbar automatically switching on when I turn the TV on because of that ARC connection is a bit temperamental. It happens sometimes and then sometimes it doesn't happen at all. I have to revert back to using the actual remote control from Majority themselves, but it's still a decent offering. Thank you very much for checking out our full review of the Majority Audio Everest 5.1 soundbar. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to keep up with our latest tech and gaming videos, and also let us know in the comments down below what you thought about this soundbar. Is it something that you would have on your TV setup at home, or would you rather just a traditional 2.1 and nothing on the surround? Let us know in the comments down below what you would prefer. As I say, thanks very much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.